ISKCON Samstabhacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bhargadakacharya Asadhara Sadhu Shri Sriman His Avangare Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatana Raghunath Shri Jiv Gopala Das Raghunath Shri Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prabhupada Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasili Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Bhakaradam Ki Jai. Vrindavandam Ki Jai. Maipur Ki Jai. Vritam Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai. ISKCON Ljubljana Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Jumramai Ki Jai. Shrimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai. Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Gaur Brahmanande. Slava Sabrani Bhakta. Slava Sabrani Bhakta. Slava Sabrani Bhakta. Slava Shri Guru Shri Guru. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari. Kopidana Ballabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari. Kopidana Ballabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari. Kopidana Ballabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari. Yasodhanandana Braja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana. Yasodhanandana Braja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Kopidana Ballabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Raja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Varachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Yamunatira Varachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupad Paramhangsa Varudakacharya Asatara Satushi Shriman. His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Gurangi. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Bacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadhyade Satarane. Om Agana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Varijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vasakans Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Dagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhana Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Drivyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patiranam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 22, Bali Maharaj surrenders his life, text number 5. Tvam nunam asuram naha. It's actually naha, okay. Paroksha paramo guru. Yo no neka madandanam. Vyabram sham chakshur adishat. Tvam nunam asuram na. Sanaha, any other thing. Yes, it would be nak. Tvam nunam asuram nak. Paroksha paramon guru. Yo no neka madandanam. Vibram sham chakshur adishat. Ram Sham Chakshur Adisha Andanam Masaram Nana Ram Chakshur Adisha. Ladies, don't be. Roksha Paramo Guru Yonane Kamadandanam Vibram Sham Raksha Adishat. It's all right, you can. Tvam nunam asaram naha. Roksha paramo guru. Yo no nekamadandanam. Yuvabramsam ashuradishat. Tvam, your lordship. Nunam, indeed, asuranam, of the demons, naha, as we are, paroksha, indirect, paramaha, the supreme, guru, spiritual master, yaha, your lordship, naha, of us, aneka, many, mada andanam, blinded by material opulences, vibramsham, destroying our false prestige, chakshu, the eye of knowledge, adishat, gave. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Since your Lordship is indirectly the greatest well-wisher of us demons, you act for our best welfare by poising as our enemy. Because demons like us always aspire for a position of false prestige, by chastising us, you give us the eyes by which to see the right path. Purport. Bali Maharaj considered the Supreme Personality of Godhead a better friend to the demons than to the demigods. Where's our translator? Okay. Probably quite an emotional purport. The demigods are devotees of the Lord for the sake of material possessions. But although the demons apparently do not have the Supreme Personality of Godhead on their side, he always acts as a well-wisher by depriving them of their positions of false prestige. By false prestige one is misguided, so the Supreme Lord always takes away their position of false prestige as a special favor. Translation again. Since your Lordship is indirectly the greatest well-wisher of us demons, you act for our best welfare by posing as if our enemy, because demons like us always aspire for a position of false prestige. By chastising us, give us the eyes by which to see the right path. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Siddharna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions Kshetram Kshetragya Jnanam Antara Jnana Chakshusha Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha Ye Vidur Yantate Param. That those who can see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the owner of the body, or the owners of the body, and can understand the process of liberation from the material conception of life, attains to the supreme goal. The purpose of Krishna's instructions is to give us vision, because right now, in the material concept of life, we have a material vision. That's what it means to be in the material world, is to have a material vision. And prominent among the vision, our vision is friends and enemies. Good people and bad people. Now, from our point of view, as Prabhupada used to say, we do believe in good people and bad people. We believe that we're good and everyone else is bad. Of course, we don't say that publicly, except in a class sometimes, because that would get us into more trouble than we're already in. But the fact is that Krishna is all good, and anyone who's for Krishna, they also become good, and anyone who's not for Krishna, they're bad. That's the difference between good and bad. Now, the demons are against Krishna. That's the definition of demon. A demon is one who chooses supposedly things that are contrary to Krishna. Of course, no one can do anything without Krishna's permission. But to think that we're independent of Krishna, that's called an asura. And how do we know that we're thinking we're independent? Because, according to Bhagavad Gita, what is that? How is that independence displayed? Krishna actually says the word asura in Bhagavad Gita, and not in a very nice way. Tadaham dvishita kuran. Tadaham dvishita kuram. What's the next word? Tanaham dvishita kuram. Tanaham dvishita, something kura. Samsareshu taranamam. Okay. Tanaham dvishita kuram samsareshu taranamam. Shipam yajasama shubham asri shveva yonashu. Those who are envious. So the first qualification to be a demon It's just that you have to be envious. So, anyone ever feel any envy here? Well, you should be, whoever says no, they should be giving the class. Tanam dvishata. Dvishata, envious. Everyone is envious. We're not only envious of Krishna, we're envious of anyone in the material world who's a little bit better than I am. Why does this devotee get 2 samosas and I only got 1? Who does he think they are? Certainly he'll get into a massive amount of trouble for this envy, for this greediness. Kuran, cruel. So if we're envious, then Maya will create a situation where we become cruel because we want to hurt those people that we're envious of in some way or another. How can you be envious of someone and want, I'm the well-wisher of you, I'm envious of you, but I'm your well-wisher. I may pretend I'm your well-wisher when I'm envious of you, but actually because I'm envious of you, I'm simply hoping that somehow or another you'll get into some difficulty and therefore I won't have to be envious of you anymore. Then I can pity you, which is another kind of enviousness. I'm so great that I can pity you. You're not a spirit soul because you're in such a miserable condition, but I'm a spiritual soul because I'm in a better position than you are. Tanaham dvishata samsareshu naradamam. Naradama means the lowest among men. So generally people, those who are the lowest among men, they think in modern society, they're put into the highest positions. Because the lowest among men want someone who's even lower than they are. Because that's the example. The lower you go, then the low people think, he should be the leader. That way I feel good. My leader encourages me for all my lowly activities. He's my example. Svavidra hostra karar, samstuta purusha pashu, niyat karna patiyo peto, jatu karma kadagraja. That men who are like hogs and dogs and camels and asses. They glorify the bigger hogs, the bigger dogs, the bigger camels, and the bigger asses. But they never glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead who holds a club and is ready to hit them with it. So people will think, this is a typical sannyasi class. Criticizing everyone. Everyone's a dog. You're a dog. You're a camel. You're an ass. I feel good going. I just wanted to tell you what I think of you. No, actually, Prabhupada explains in the purport that he's not saying these things. Krishna is saying them. So if you want to complain against someone, then complain about Krishna. He's the one who said these things. And he's not just saying them whimsically. He's saying that people are like dogs. Why are they like dogs? Who's not like a dog in modern society? A dog, he looks for a good master. He wags his tail. I'm a good dog. Please accept me. I'm surrendered to you. So Prabhupada says they go to school, they get their diploma, they get their PhD, then they go to business, bow down. I'm a good dog, please hire me. I'll wag my tail all the time. Doesn't matter what you do. You hit me, but I'll still wag my tail. I'm a good dog. Hogs, people eat anything and any time, sex with anyone and anything, sleep anywhere at any time. They're considered like hogs. So the biggest hog, the person who's the biggest accumulator of things, who has the most wealth by hook or crook, who's cheated everyone, they become the heroes of modern society. Those we want to follow. Go to school and learn how to become a cheater. That's called business school. You get your MD, MA in business. It means you're the bigger hog than anyone else. You're the supreme hog. You're the hog acharya. And others, hogs, camels. Camels love to eat thorns. Why do they like? Has anyone eaten a thorn lately? Has anyone ever cooked thorns and eat them like popcorn? Why do camels like thorns? Does anyone know? Yes, they like the taste of their blood. Anyone like to taste their blood? So that's compared to people who engage in unrestricted sex life. They're actually drinking their blood because they're getting rid of the very essence of blood. When blood is purified by the agnis within the body, it comes to be artha and sukra, which are the feminine and masculine reproductive fluids systems, which are eliminated by sex life. So those who like sex life, they're compared to people who are just drinking their own blood. And hogs, camels, and asses. An ass will work very hard, pulls a big, heavy load, just so that at the end of the day, the master gives him a little bit of straw, which is beneath his feet. In real culture and real society, people simply grow a few vegetables, a little grains, and they have their food. Just like one Brahmin was a teacher in one kingdom in India a century ago. And one big famous king came and said, "My dear Brahmin, I want to help you. I want to give you some money to help you survive." He said, "I don't need your money." What do you mean you don't need my money? I see you're you're in poverty stricken. You're practically homeless. I'm a social welfare worker. No, I don't need your money. What do you mean you don't need my money? You have hardly anything. No. My students, they go and collect a little rice. And I have a tamarind tree here, and my wife picks a few tamarind leaves, and when she cooks them with the rice, then I'm satisfied. I don't need your money. But people think they need so much, they'll work like anything, like a dog, so they can eat like a hog, and have sex like a pigeon, and they can sleep like a bear. So they'll work like an ass in order to get it. And if someone's not working like an ass, they'll think, what's wrong with this person? He's lazy. He seems to be intelligent, but he's lazy intelligent. He's not breaking rocks like the rest of us in the prison. In the prison, sometimes people they're given rocks and they just break them. There's no use of breaking the rock. It doesn't produce anything. But they're just mindlessly, endlessly breaking rocks for no reason, just to keep them busy. So tanaham dvichuta kuram samsareshu naradamam, the lowest among men, shipram yajasam ashubam asvishveva yonishu. And I put them into demoniac species of life, into the lower species of life. Asram yonam apanam muda janmani mama prapyaiva kondya tapoyantyadamam gitim. And achieving the demoniac species of life, they sink down and lower into the most abominable species. I cast them into that. Does this sound like a nice person who's talking? It sounds like it's someone who's pretty envious himself. You don't like me, I don't like you. Down, boy. Down into the lower species of life. You'll find out what it's like not to like God. Oh, I'm sorry, God. No, don't hit me again. No, sorry. You don't like me, I don't like you. And what's their problem? Trividam narakasyedam. No, that's not right. Yeah. Dwaram nashitam atmanaha. Kama krodha tata lobhas. Tasmat etam triyam chajet. There are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane person should give these up because they lead to the degradation of the self. Now go out in the street and tell people that your real problem is lust, anger, and greed. People think, wow, this person's dangerous. preaching real danger. Greed. I love greed. I love lust. I live for lust. Anything that excites my lust, that's what I pay for. Anger, of course I should be angry. Because somehow or another God is not allowing me to unlimitedly satisfy my lust and my greed. So I'm angry at God for that. And anyone else who's an impediment to serving my lust, anger, and greed. So this is demoniac consciousness. This is what's glorified in modern society. Maybe not directly, but who do they interview? Do they interview the poor people? Only rarely they interview the poor people and ask their opinion about anything. Because they figure, as Prabhupada said, one man asking another man, do you have any money? And he's checking his pocket to see if he has anything in the pocket. If he has money, he said, are you intelligent? So then he's checking his pocket to see if he has any money, because he has money, he must be intelligent. So the people who have the most money, who've stolen this money from Krishna, as Prabhupada told one man in Mayapur, this life member came on a morning walk on the roof of the Mayapur building. Well, he was introduced by one of the devotees and said, this is Mr. Patel, he's such and so, he's a big magnate, he's a big businessman, fabulously wealthy. So Prabhupada said, oh, very good, Mr. Patel, what kind of work, what do you manufacture? He said, I manufacture glass. Really? Well, that's really interesting. Where does the glass come from? Oh, Swamiji, it comes from sand. Sand? But where does the sand come from? Oh, Mr. Patel said, sand, it comes from Bhagavan. And so Prabhupada's eyebrows raised up and said, oh, so you're stealing from Bhagavan. And the man was very embarrassed, and he left. He came to the back of the devotees in the morning walk, and finally at the end of the morning walk he came up to Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, I just want to tell you that I give in charity. And Prabhupada said, oh, very good. So you're a little thief. So the biggest thieves are what they glorify. They're the ones who are controlling everything in modern society. They're the ones who buy the newspapers, buy the politicians, buy the judges, buy everything. Everything's owned by them. There's like 3 companies in the world, and they own like 80, almost 90% of everything in the world. 3 Blackwater and some other ones, I forget the 3 holding companies. They own everything, and only a few people own them. And these are the people who are running everything. But Krishna says, Etanya pi tu karmani. That couldn't be right. Etat Sri Mukta Kontiya Tavo Dwara Srivirnara Atra Ekama Shayas Tatoyati Param Gatim. That anyone who can get free from these 3 gates of hell performs acts which are conducive to self-realization, and thus he attains the supreme destination. So it's good to get free from these things. And therefore in this verse it mentions that the demigods who are puffed up by their accumulated wealth and power and position, they actually they like being demigods. They may be devotees of Krishna, but they also like their comfortable position. And they expect Krishna to maintain them in their comfortable position. On the other hand, the demons, they're chastised, seemingly chastised by Krishna, and they lose all their opulence, and they're humbled, and they get free from somewhat of their false prestige. Just like Banasura. Who was that? Oh, Banasura. Banasura was blessed by Lord Shiva. He had 10,000 arms. No, he didn't have 10,000. He only had 1,000 arms, sorry. He had 1,000, but that's enough. So, imagine what you could do with 10,000 arms. You can do a lot of service. Of course, everyone else would have to get out of your way. But he had 10,000 arms. And he was literally the heavyweight champion in the world for boxing, because it was virtually impossible to block his punches. But he couldn't find anyone to fight with him. So his arms were always itchy, full of desire to fight. And therefore he was very morose. So he went around the universe looking for a fight, but everyone ran away. Finally he went to the mountains and pounded the mountains with his fists and broke them to pieces, and he ran out of mountains. So he came to Lord Shiva, who gave him the benediction, said, "My dear Lord Shiva, put it up. I need someone to fight with." Lord Shiva said, "You stupid demon, get out of here. You're no match for me." He said, "But don't worry, that one day someone will come along and he'll get your pride will get smashed to pieces, and your flag of victory will no longer fly." So what did the demon do? Was he worried? Was Banasura worried about the future, that someone's going to come and defeat him? No, he became excited that finally someone's going to come and smash my pride to pieces, so that all this lust that I have to fight with someone will go away, and all this material desire to be the best will go away, and I can live peacefully for a little while. So even the demons know that this is a very uncomfortable situation. And they're looking forward to the time when all their opulence will get smashed and they can be a little peaceful. Of course, then they get envious again, and then they want more, but probably gives the example of D.N. Das. I forget actually, one of his initials was D. Fabulously wealthy lawyer in India at the time of Gandhi. And there he was earning something like, probably said, 50,000 rupees a month, which is equivalent to like at least $50,000 a month. And in India at that time, if you had 50,000 rupees, you could buy practically anything. But he was always morose. So his wife asked him, "Why are you always morose? You have everything." He said, "What do you want to be?" So he pointed out some mendicant on the street. "That's what I want to be like." He joined Gandhi's movement, and Gandhi proclaimed that all the barristers who are working in the court of the British should immediately resign their posts and join our movement. So he resigned his post. He was no longer making 50,000 rupees a month. Gandhi was giving him 50 or 100 rupees a month to live on. So Prabhupada said within a few months he died because he couldn't tolerate it. He wanted to become renounced, but when he became renounced, he couldn't tolerate. So you can't, in the material world, you can't win and you can't break even. If you have a lot of opulence, then after a while you get tired of it. You want some peace from worrying about all your opulence. And when you have that peace, when it's all taken away from you, then you want it back again, because you can't live without it. So Krishna takes away the demons' false prestige, but that's not the end of the story. Some of them might become devotees, like ourselves. Somehow or another, we become devotees. But then we shouldn't try to go back to become demons again. Now my false prestige has been taken away a little bit. I realize that I'm not going to become the controller of the universe, no matter how hard I try, although I'm trying hard, sincerely. I got the best education, how to become the best of all the asuras. It didn't work out for me, so I tried to become a devotee. But that doesn't seem to work either, because I'm still envious of the demons. So one should understand our real problem is our false ego, that we're trying to be something we're not, either renounced or we're trying to become something that we're not, a big opulent controller, but actually we should simply become happy to become a servant. And when we become happy to become a servant, whatever position we're in, we'll be all right, because we'll actually be in our real position, which is a spiritual position, which doesn't depend upon any material situation. And if we're not in that spiritual position, it doesn't matter what position we're in, we'll never be happy and satisfied. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I saw you have a Sunday some about Radha Damodara and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Can you say some words about how it was like in Radha Damodara?
Well, if I did, then you won't listen on Sunday. So you can listen Sunday. Generally, we ask questions which are relevant to the class. Anything else?
Some questions from the internet. Avaduta Roy Prabhu says, Vishwanatha Chakravarti writes, the senses, their devatas, prana, intelligence, chitta, and ahankara are not the Atma. Why? They are all supported by food like the body. Question. How intelligence, prana, and ahankara are supported by food?
How are prana and intelligence supported by food?
Yeah.
Well, within food, depending what kind of food you're referring to, whether food is including the gross food that we eat, plus the air we breathe, plus the water we drink, and even food is what comes into our senses. And everything in this world is energetically, well, practically everything has different degrees of prana, or energy behind it. So if we have a good digestion on either on the physical level, or on the mental level, the intellectual level, or on the sensual level, we can extract the prana from whatever comes into our senses. Similarly, in terms of the intelligence, well, intelligence, the main food for intelligence is sound, which is one of the sense objects. So if we hear spiritual sound, our intelligence increases, and if we hear material sound, our intelligence decreases, and it contaminates our intelligence. Doesn't necessarily decrease, just becomes contaminated by material desire, lusty intelligence. And lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire a false ego, to identify itself with the mind and senses, and thus try to enjoy sense gratification. That's lusty intelligence. As far as Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara was probably one of the most intense services I've ever had. The only thing we did was distribute books, sometimes I remember when we were really enthusiastic, we'd go out at around 9 o'clock in the morning and work until around 3 o'clock in the morning, distributing books. Tough as nails, hard as rocks, we'll hit the lots till 12 o'clock. Pick it to the bone and bring it on home, lay him down like a rug, 6 hours of sleep, and put him back on the jug. That was Radha Damodara. I remember when I was the temple president, Radha Damodara decided that Vishnu John Maharaj was my friend, because we lived together for some time, opening a temple in Houston. And he was on Radha Damodar. He was like himself and Tamal Krishna Maharaj were the heads of Radha Damodar. So they were picking up temple presidents and getting them to join. So Vishnu John Maharaj came by on his bus with the temple I was the president of and got me to join Radha Damodar. And I became the Sankirtan leader on the Radha Damodar bus. A minute after that, wasn't there, but I was on another bus for some time, but there was no room. So in the buses they have this place where the wheels are. So sometimes if I got back late from book distribution, I'd have to sleep on the place where the wheel was. Oh my God. And then if we slept in our vans, one time I slept in my van, but it was so cold that when I got up in the morning, my van was frozen to the top of the car. My sleeping bag was frozen to the top of the car. When I tried to pick it up, it ripped. But we didn't really, I mean, it was quite an interesting, because now we speak about it, we think, oh, this is really austere, and et cetera, et cetera. But actually we didn't know anything at that time, because there was no internet. You didn't find out you were being exploited, or there was anything wrong. There's no information. You just did what you did. I remember when Prabhupada wrote a letter to me, but not to me, to my temple president, Rupanugapuru, saying I should open a temple somewhere. So he sent me down to Florida to open a temple. And when I got there, there was no temple. There was a devotee named Gargamuni Maharaj and his assistant there, and we were living in the park. And we had no food because we had no money, but our food for some month or so, or 2 months, whatever it was, we cook on the park grill, and we make chapatis in the morning. And the Gargamuni Maharaj would make some apple chutney, and then we'd go out and distribute the chapatis. We'd put the apple chutney in the chapati and go out and distribute it to the hippies who would gather around noon when we do a kirtan. And then at the end of that, then our daily quota of food was two, I think maybe 3 chapatis for the day. That was our quota of food. And after we ate that food, we could go out and look for the remnants of the hippies to see if there was anything left over. So needless to say, I got pretty thin, but I didn't think anything of it, because no one told me it was, rather austere. It was just kind of normal. And then they decided that I helped Vishnu Jan Maharaj and Srinath to open the temple in Houston. So they sent me hitchhiking for 3 days through the south of America with a dhoti on. At that time, it wasn't very popular to be kind of weird in America. With no food whatsoever. Gargamuni was very, he was Gargamuni. He wouldn't give out any money to anyone. So the only thing he bought me was, for the 3-day trip, or 4 days, whatever it was 1/4 pound of fried chickpeas, which I didn't even eat. Anyhow, but when I remember back just walking, because they left me off in a state called Louisiana next to Texas, where I was going to. And I was walking for some hours, because no one would pick me up. I had a dhoti on. No one ever saw a dhoti before. But I thought it was completely normal. I didn't think anything about it. Just because I never thought this was kind of strange. This is what you're supposed to do. So that's Radha Damodar also. We're actually distributing books. We were so enthusiastic. It wasn't that we were forced to do it. After distributing books and especially getting donations, you just feel the surge of transcendental energy. You just want to do it more. I mean, we'd run around at night, to the grocery stores, and if no one was in the grocery store, we'd sell the books to the people working in the grocery store, the supermarkets, until the police would come and tell us to go home, go to sleep. But there was so much ecstasy, there was so much transcendental enlivenment by doing it that we just didn't want to stop. Besides that, we had the energy to do it also. I mean, I could tell you a lot of stories about it, but we had some really interesting ways of doing things. Anything else?
Thank you, Maharaj. There is one more from bhakti-yoga Tilburg. It says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, question. I understood that Dhritarashtra was actually a devotee. How about Duryodhana? Was he a demon?
Sure appears like it. he was certainly a demon. He was sent by the demons to take over the world. Just like, yeah, of course he was a demon. He was against Krishna. He even tried to imprison Krishna. How can you not be a demon? How can you be envious of Krishna? That's the definition of a demon. He was envious of, even worse than that, he was envious of the Pandavas. He tried to kill them. Most devotees don't try and kill other devotees.
Okay, and it says, so Dhritarashtra was actually a devotee? Or?
He was actually a devotee, Dhritarashtra. He had some knowledge of Krishna. He knew that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he didn't mind his sons trying to kill great devotees like the Pandavas. Obviously, he wasn't a very good devotee. He wasn't really a devotee so much. He had some knowledge and some appreciation for Krishna, but he wasn't a devotee. Wouldn't encourage his sons to kill great devotees like the Pandavas. He was kind of a mixed kind of personality. And at the end, when Vidura came and gave him transcendental knowledge, he couldn't really make him into a devotee. So he made him into a Naradama or Dhira. So he could attain liberation. But he never became, because of his offenses against the devotees, he couldn't actually go back to the spiritual world. Khwala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premananda